seconds, please. Okay. Go.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us for this important discussion titled From Classrooms to Sustainable Futures, brought to you by Brave Future and Funky Brown Chick Incorporated. Wherever you're joining us from today, you are most welcome. My name is Carla McDermott. I am the Director of Development and Outreach at Brave Future, and I'll be moderating today's conversation. So today, you're going to hear from three different perspectives on what it takes to get from classrooms to sustainable futures. You're going to hear from a young woman who's living it, an organization working at the health and rights barrier, and an organization working at the access and credentialing barrier. We will be keeping strong housekeeping, keeping it tight to 45 minutes so that we can get to all three voices. So let's get started. First up is Nahid, a student that will be sharing her personal journey in education. Good afternoon, Nahid Jan. How are you?
Good afternoon, Carla. I'm good, thank you.
So pleased to have you here with us today. We are looking forward to hearing your side of this important topic. So please tell me, where was your classroom and what was it like?
When we talk about classroom, I actually have experience being in part of different classrooms. Before Afghanistan government clubs, I was a student in physical classrooms. But after the government clubs, I found Brave Future, and Brave Future offered virtual hub or virtual classrooms for me. So that's how I continued my education and earned an internationally recognized diploma through Brave Future virtual classrooms.
Amazing, amazing. Um, when you finished that classroom, then what did you do?
It took me 2 years. Actually, it was not 2 months. So it took me 2 years to be in this amazing Brave Future classrooms. And after I finished that, it gives me high school diploma that allowed me to get a bachelor degree in software engineering in a UK university. And right now, I'm pursuing my bachelor degree there.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I love that. How was that transition from a physical classroom to online? Was it difficult, or were you able to take to it quite easily?
Uh, to be honest, I would say I never expected myself to finish my high school through virtual classroom. That was not my expectation at all. But when I had to and when I joined, it was a fabulous experience. I mean, it was as learning centric, as supportive, as lovely community as you can expect in an excellent school, which I had prior to Brave Future. So while it was a complete brand new experience for me, it was a great experience. I loved it, and I'm so happy that I managed to finish it.
Oh, awesome, awesome. And when you now that you finish, when you finish university, what would you like to do after you graduate?
I have exciting plans ahead of me. I will graduate this September, and after that, I already know which area I'm most interested in, which is ethical AI and how AI can shape economy of a country. So first, I will try to get more internship, get a bit more of professional experience, and later in 2028 September, I will pursue a master degree in ethical AI or how AI can shape economy of a country.
Amazing. Such big aspirations. It's so amazing to see that you are taking serious steps along that journey. Thank you for sharing with us today. We're going to move on now. Our next voice is Twanna Hines. The, Twanna is a CEO and founder of Funky Brown Chick Incorporated. That's an organization working at the intersection of culturally appropriate maternal and reproductive health programming. Twanna, how are you today?
I'm doing great, girl. How are you?
I'm good. You look fabulous in that bright yellow.
Thank you. Yellow is one of my favorite colors. The lighting here makes it look like I'm literally illuminated, which is kind of fun. But yeah, thank you for having me. Very happy to be here. And I love Nahid's story. We want more Nahids, right? Like we want more girls having access to education and building their own futures. Like so excited to see that. So a bit more about us. Who are we when it comes to
Yeah,
taking girls
tell,
from
tell us
classroom
about
to
your work.
sustainability? Yeah, happy to tell you a bit more about our work. So Funky Brown Chick is a social impact firm. And so the easiest way to say that is that we help organizations do more. So an organization is already existing, doing great work, and we just help them do a bit more, right? We help them scale. We've been in business about 20 years, 21 to be exact, and we've worked with over 100 nonprofits, NGOs, small business, all of these to help them grow more in one of three ways: more money, so increase and scale the funds that are coming to their organization; more people in whatever programming they may be offering or policy solutions that they're trying to advance. Sometimes it's more awareness. I know for some of you tuning in right now, this may be the first time that you've heard of Brave Future, or maybe even the first time you've heard of Funky Brown Chick. And so we're very excited about making sure that important causes get more awareness of what they're working on. So to put a little bit of a concrete information around each of those, I'll give a simple example for each, because I know we've got a question and answer at the end. So more money. It's important that we talk about that because the funding is collapsing for women and girls programming, including education at this moment. We're hearing that from across all of our clients and partners. And so when we talk about more funding, the way this has worked with one of our clients, which is a nonprofit newsroom, human rights organization focused on investigative journalism, we were able to bring them 100,000 more supporters, increase the amount of money that they got from their fundraising by 20%, and get them a 4 times return by going through digital fundraising. And so that was one of the ways in which we helped an organization get more. And we want to make sure that we help more girls' education organizations do exactly the same thing. So then let's talk about like more people. Sometimes the problem isn't just, hey, this organization needs more money. It's they need more people into the programs that already exist. An example of a project we've done for that, I think of an organization fronted by formerly incarcerated people. We worked with them because they had access to free healthcare counseling, and they wanted to make sure that they got as many people as possible when they were going into reentry to access these services. Fantastic cause, and we wanted to make sure as many people could do that. So we worked with them to make sure we were able to directly connect 1,700 people who'd been formerly incarcerated directly to healthcare services. And that's kind of thing that's very important to us. And the last of the three buckets, we talked about money, talk about people, and I want to talk about awareness as well. And so a lot of the work that we do sometimes is helping organizations get greater awareness of to greater number of people what's actually going on with their organization. And as a digital first org, we're always going to start there. Because I say, even if we get you in the New York Times, which we've done for clients, very few people are going to like read that on the New York Times. It's a great experience. People do still read the physical New York Times with their coffee, right? But most of the people are going to see it here, right? You're going to see it when you wake up and you're scrolling on your phone. You're going to share it that way. Or you're going to see it trending on Blue Sky or X or whatever you're on, or that's what it'll be. So we do a lot of information of getting people out there. So that's the kind of three ways in which we help people do more of different things. And we're incredibly interested in working with people who've been traditionally left behind. Women, girls, LGBTQ communities, people connected to the informal economies, anything that we can do to make sure that that more includes the people that are attached to that as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You guys have done a lot. I've been doing it for a while and I'm doing a great job. We've heard from Nahid. She told us about what her classroom looked like and her aspirations. And then we just heard from Twanna and everything that she's doing at Funky Brown Chick to help organizations do more. Let's now turn our conversation to Marcela Nacif. Marcela is the founder of Brave Future, a nonprofit designing and delivering quality education across various contexts. That looks like from anywhere from Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya to virtual delivery models in Afghanistan. Welcome, Marcela. How are you?
Thank you so much, Carla. I'm very well. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Amazing. So you know our theme today, Marcela. Our theme is from classroom to sustainable futures. What do you do when there is no classroom?
That's a very have different angles, right, to this question. I think here the classroom really represents the symbol of the vehicle that will deliver the education. So the representation of the pathways, the teachers, and the quality that everything should have. So I can give you the examples of the two main contexts we work in Afghanistan and in Kakuma. So when you take out that vehicle, right, when you don't have the classrooms, we need to start understanding what then are the barriers for the delivery of education. So let's start taking Afghanistan as the example. The main barrier is political. You have the government prohibition of girls' education after sixth grade, so grade six. So you have cases of Nahid. Nahid is our first student, and it's really important to understand. Okay, now you cannot go to school because the government's putting a barrier. So how can school look like, and how this classroom look like? And the first thing we did was online education is the first place that you're going to resource to, and allowing them to access the online education. In order for that to happen, you need to provide with computers and then internet access. But by having access to the computers and the internet, you give them access to the world. And then through this, we're able to connect with different mentors around the world, different teachers, and they're able to provide, to pursue education in an alternative way. But then combined with this government prohibition, you also have the lack of recognition, because if there is no government recognizing your pathway because that is prohibited, you need to find different ways of making that learning pathway accredited. So the way that we did in Brave Future was to find a curriculum that is internationally recognized. In our case, we do the British curriculum, but that ensures that when the girls finish their pathway, they're able to finish with a credential that they can then hold up, no one can take away from them, and they can use to either apply for universities or pursue whatever pathway they decide to. So that is that's really important in terms of sustainability. And Nahid's story really illustrates that, because she finished the pathway, she had credentials, so the credentials are recognized anywhere. She came to Portugal, and now she's pursuing her bachelor's in software engineering. So it's a beautiful example of from classrooms sustainable futures. And then a little bit on the other side that we work in Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya, which you don't have government prohibition, but you have a lack of education in general. So you have good primary enrollment, but less than a fourth of refugees actually access secondary education. And from the refugees that access secondary education, less than 3% actually pass the Kenyan national exams. So you have a massive gap in terms of quality and in terms of infrastructure, lack of teachers, overcrowded classrooms. So we really need to understand what are those barriers and build the system around it. And then, not saying that our example will work for everywhere, but in our case, the way that we managed to overcome this is by building a digital learning hub where we equipped with solar panels, computers, internet access, of course, and then we connected those students that were before in classrooms with 100+ kids to international teachers, and we build personalized learning pathways that are essentially covering first all the gaps that they had because of primary schooling, and then giving them high quality secondary education that is recognized anywhere and enables them to pursue secondary education or eventually integrate the job market. So I would say from all of that, the biggest things would be just really understand what the barriers are, and find a way to build this bridge that is not only a bridge for the challenges, but this bridge needs to take somewhere. Education for education, like we need to understand what is the barriers to get to the next step, and then build from there. That answered the question.
Yes, amazing. Thank you so much, Marcela. And I agree completely. I enjoy and love working with you every day. And one of the things that I always share when people ask me about who we are at Brave Future, I always say we are delivering adaptable and flexible education to various communities, because that's the most important thing. And the third most important thing is that they are able to earn a recognized diploma to carry with them throughout their travels. Wherever they go, they know that their time is qualified, right? So they can hold it up and say, this is where I've been, this is what I've been doing. Thank you so much, Marcela. So I just wanted to share this quote that I found the other day. 122 million girls are still out of school today, not because they don't want to learn, because the systems around them have failed them. And I think that's what we're talking about today. 122 million girls. Now, we provide education for everyone, but that's strictly girls. And that's why we're having this discussion. Just to take a deep dive for a minute, we've heard three different perspectives about how we go from classrooms to sustainable futures. I want to open up a little bit more between our three panelists. So I'm going to go back to Nahid, our lovely Nahid-san. I want to ask, how is professional life different than student life?
That's a very good question, Carla. Just the way that it was a brand new experience for me to change from physical classrooms to online classroom, it was a complete transition to enter the world of professionalism, and I entered that through an internship that I have. I would say that there are differences and similarities between student life and professional life. The biggest difference is that when you're a student, the mistakes that we make are usually written by pencils. We can usually erase them or correct them easily. On the other hand, in this world of professionalism, we work with pens, so it's a bit harder to erase or leave it without leaving a trace. So we have to act a bit more cautious and be a bit more serious. On the other hand, the similarities are that we still have a lot to learn. There is always room for growth and improvement, and the fact that life is continuous learning and continuous development. And that was what I learned in the internship that I had as a professional experience: continuous learning and continuous growth.
Amazing. That's awesome. And so you are not only completing your bachelor's degree, but you're also working and participating in an internship. Is that correct?
That's exactly correct. So I'm doing my bachelor degree, I'm working to sustain my life, and I'm getting practical experience doing an internship in an area which I'm really, really excited about, which is AI. And as I said earlier, that later on I want to learn more about how we can change economy of a country using AI. So it's an absolute great pleasure to do this internship. And yeah, it's a fabulous experience which I'm getting.
And it's our absolute pleasure to watch you along this journey. It's been amazing to watch you go from target to target each step of the journey, and then tackling it with determination and grace. I want to move on now to Twanna. Twanna, if a funder came to you tomorrow and could only fund one line item, health or education, what would you tell them? What would you tell them they're getting wrong about that choice?
Well, it's kind of a false choice, though, right? Isn't it? Because the thing is, those aren't two different line items. It's one line item. It would be asking Naveed, are you a student or are you a girl? Like some students are girls and some girls are students. You can't pull those apart. And so it is with health and education as well, right? So I don't care how much you fund a school. If the girl or any of the students are sick, they're not able to get to the school due to transportation. You haven't really put in maternal or child culturally appropriate education or access to period products and things like that. All of that stuff, all the wins of trying to get the student out to the other end, as Marcela was saying too, not just graduating, but what comes next, right? Enrolling, graduating, and go on. You really cut the opportunity for that. So for a funder who's thinking, okay, we're only going to do one or the other, you really have to see them as one. And if you cut funding in any area, like we're seeing with women and girls right now, a lot of this program, UN Women actually released a report recently that said 84% of organizations saw an increase of need due to conflict and other reasons, increase of need for their services, and 88% of them had their funding cut in some way. And so, as we're looking at what this is all right now, if a funder came and said, look, hey, should we be funding health or education right now? I would say you can't take those apart. You really can't.
That's true, right? And then we're all the funding landscape at this minute. I think we're still going to be seeing the ramifications of the cuts in aid in the coming months and definitely in the coming years. Thank you, Twanna. Marcela, you're up next. What are two important lessons you've learned from your work at Brave Future?
Only two. Two is I can actually, yeah, say the next day. Anyone wants to stay here? But okay, two. I would say like the importance of putting the student, the learner at the center, right? Because especially when we're doing humanitarian work, we have so many interests in games. So you have the funders, you have the governments, you have ourselves, you have like there's so many interests that we really forget about the child or the student, the learner, the girl. And it's really important to understand them first and what are their challenges in an individualized way and create a system that fits them, not forcing them to fit a specific system. And I think that's really important because sometimes we just put things that we believe is going to work and is going to work the same because it's for students and it works for everybody, and it doesn't. So standardization in this case can be a huge challenge for the success of the program. And then I'll also approach everything with not the way that we believe and always give a step back and understand the students first. And then the second one would be, I think that education will only become a future if we're actually able to convert that, right? I can spend the rest of my life giving programming classes in Kakuma, which are nice, but if I cannot actually apply that to either get a job or go to university or give the next step, I'm like, I need something, right? We need to actually take time to build that pathway and focus the education initiatives on not providing that specific point, but also what is the next. So for example, Nahid, if we had gotten Nahid and say, okay, Nahid, this is a course, you do the course, she would not be able to build her sustainable future because her qualifications and whatever she's learning would need to connect to something. In her case, be connected with a university and the job market. And it's important that we have that into consideration when we are designing the programs.
Very good. Exactly. Again, adaptability and flexibility. And then we're coming to that piece where you have that. And now what? What are the next steps? And our model is evolving as we come to grips with this as well. In certain cases where higher education is not going to be possible, what is next for these students? Is it vocational training? Is it internships and mentoring? And trying to come up and be ready for those next challenges. Yeah, you're exactly right. Moving on now to what we came here to actually produce, which is the recommendations. So I want to ask another question and go back to Nahid on this because as she is living this model and living this experience and has valuable feedback. So Nahid, you said very eloquently about the hardest part of going from a student to a professional is like going from using a pen or a pencil to a pen. For Afghan girls coming behind you, what do you think we should be considering? Maybe something that you wish you would have had as support.
I would say whatever I say, there will be still so many more things for them to experience when they actually do the internship. But if I give one example, that would be let's communicate a bit more effectively because it's like a complete new environment. So the people that we work with, the people that engage with daily, they are not our college peers. They are our mentors, they are our managers. So the way that we communicate with them should be a bit more professionally, as I said, like, because it has a lot of influence in what we do next. So I would take that into account. But that being said, I cannot emphasize enough that how much I really love doing this professional internship. It was a fabulous, fabulous experience for me. I learned so much throughout the journey of internship. Agree, I made a lot of mistakes, but these mistakes were something that I learned things from. So it was a fabulous journey, and I hope that we can provide these sort of opportunities for other Afghan women, as it is a great opportunity, a learning experience.
Amazing. Yes. And I like how you said that, like they're not mistakes, right? Everything that we do, we call a mistake. It's something, it's a lesson learned. Something we'll either do again in the future or something we won't. Everything is a lesson if we take it like that. Thank you, Nahid. Twanna, if you were talking about education and health and how there are not two different things. And to support women and girls towards sustainable futures, you must feature on both. If you had the ear of funders today, what would you ask them to do? What would you ask them to consider?
I
Twanna,
love this
oh, there we go.
question. Yeah, no worries. I love this question because I'm going to assume we do have the ear of funders. I saw some of y'all RSVP to this, so that's exciting to see that we do have funders in the room who are watching live, and some will probably watch later too, which is exciting. And I would just say, like, honestly, heart to heart, like, women and girls are people. It might sound weird to say that, but when we talk about like funders shifting what they're funding or streams that were going to one area and are now not going there, we can't divorce the fact that women and girls are people. So we're talking about human capital and investing in, and I honestly don't care what you're talking about, whether it's banking or education, infrastructure, any of these things, because women and girls are at least half of the population, you're talking about people that you're not going to be impacting. And where it's really going to show up is downstream when what you're trying to do, whatever you're trying to do, the reason why there's funding for youth, funding for women, funding for girls, is that there are very real, concrete, structural barriers that make it more challenging for communities to access the same thing that other communities can. So when you take funding away from that, the problem doesn't go away, the problem exacerbates. Because when we're talking about migrants, youth, women, people who are typically left behind, some of the grossest injustices, some of the deepest problems actually show up on those communities first. So then if you starve out funding as well, that only makes it worse. And so that's what I would ask funders to really consider. It's that women and girls are people. And if you're investing in people, human capital, if you're investing in the arts, humanities, anything that's going to affect people, and you think that doesn't affect women and girls, I mean, that's just not true, is what I would say.
Thank you, Twanna. Thank you. You're just right. Spot on, actually. Marcela, you mentioned two valuable lessons. What do you need to ensure that Brave Future is able to continue to offer access to quality education for various communities, for these conflict impacted communities?
Thank you, Carla. Good question, and I think it's a challenge that we all working with NGOs are probably facing right now, which is essentially funding, right? And the understanding that education is a process; it takes a while. So you see Nahid's journey. Nahid was with us for 4 years. Until we concluded the education, and then she came to Portugal, then found jobs. So it's a long process, and usually the funding cycles are very short, and it's very much related to, for example, how many kids you can impact. And so it's a lot about numbers, and it's really hard to focus on at the same time to impact a lot of numbers and ensure that the whole pathway is sustainable until the end. So to have that perspective as well, yes, amazing. It's great to impact numbers, but it would also be important that we had the chance of funding full cohorts So can we start funding cohorts from the beginning to the end, which implicates multiple years funding cycle, that we're able to prove the results not by the amount of learners we're able to enroll, but by the outcome of the learners when they leave the program. So that would be essentially a great barrier to overcome in terms of funding.
Thank you, Marcela. Thank you. I want to open the chat up between the panelists, but first I'd just like to say to those who are tuning in live, please do feel free to add any questions or feedback into the comment section, and we will try and get to your questions. But right now, I was just thinking about when you were talking there, Marcela, about this. There's so much that can be done, but everybody's looking at numbers when we go through a lot of the processes of filling out grant applications. Sometimes we feel quite like we're just this tiny organization doing impactful work, but maybe these big funding engines are not going to see us because we deal with this many students instead of this many. So it's kind of that paradox of quality versus quantity. We know that we are not addressing large numbers, but the numbers that we are addressing, we're making real difference. And that idea that you commented on there about that pathway, what we like to say to our learners at Brave Future, once a Brave Future learner, always a Brave Future learner. You start with us, and whether or not you finish the academic side, we are going to be engaged with you throughout and providing what support we can throughout, whether that's through workshops and mentorship and guidance. All of those are still valuable. So I'm going to open it up now between Nahid and Twanna and Marcela throughout this conversation. Ladies, do you guys have questions for each other before we address any questions in the comments from the audience?
Actually, I have a question for Marcelo.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Nervous.
As you mentioned, Carla, that like when you're once a Brave Future student, you're gonna be Brave Future student for the rest of your life, and that's what exactly you're doing here with Marcela. I was with Marcela when I was like doing high school, and then entered university. I was with Marcela, and when I joined work environment, I was with Marcela. So I'm like the first learner. I want to ask Marcela, how was her experience like being in a completely new environment, working with Afghan women? As I believe she also had no prior experience of working with Afghan girls and helping them to get education. How different was it? What you really enjoy about it? I know you enjoy it because you're keep doing it and keep doing it with so much love and passion. So just tell us something about it.
I think it's absolutely rewarding, and at the same time it's you are, how can I say, it's not different, right, than working with students, different students around the world. Like, you're still absolutely ambitious. The one thing that I would say is like very determined, sometimes a little bit stubborn, very highly achieving. And then like with this, I did have to give a step back and understand, okay, how do I contain the drive and the energy, and filter towards like our single goal. But it's been absolutely rewarding. You know how much I love you girls, and it's really the best part of my life to be able to work with you, and then seeing you achieving your dreams. And then all the ups and downs that we go with university applications, and then the visas, and then you are going to a country. I suffered in every single step. Celebrate all the little steps that we give together. So you do give a lot of meaning and purpose to my life, and for that I'll be absolutely grateful. I also think that especially with focusing the girls in Afghanistan, that is such a we have so many problems around the world, and the problems are very structural, and it's so hard. But with the girls, when you look at them, is there's a lot of problems in Afghanistan, but still the barrier is strictly a prohibition because of gender is outrageous, and it's outrageous that we can live in the world like that. So I will still hold up to the fight as a woman, and as you say, as your teacher, and as a friend, to make sure that you know that you are not forgotten, you are not alone, and we will get over this one step at a time, and we're on this together. So long story short, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Great question, Naheed. Great feedback, Marcela. So lovely. I had a quick question for Twanna. I know that a lot of your work in the past was in the US, and that you are much more a global organization now with a focus on Europe. Do you find any difference in that, or is it the same, or is it a different breadth of issues that you are encountering? You're still on mute, Twanna.
At my firm, we call that pulling a Twanna when someone talks and they're still on mute, because I do it all the time. Whether it's Zoom, Teams, it doesn't matter. This live stream, I'm going to talk while I'm on mute. So thank you. Please do that. If I do it, flag it so I make sure I unmute myself. But I love this question because it's so layered in so many ways. One, I'm sitting here in Lisbon, in my place in Lisbon right now. And I know we're all throughout the world who are watching. One of the things that I notice, regardless of the topic, since we're talking about girls and education, I'll talk about sexual reproductive health and rights. Even when you're talking about one particular discipline, the way in which that looks, the way in which it's funded, and even the language that's used changes quite drastically. There's a difference between reproductive health, reproductive rights, reproductive justice, sexual reproductive health and rights, and all of that is different from HIV/AIDS funding, which is different from maternal child health funding. And so from not only a programmatic but a funding stream, the ways in which these things are configured, that's talking about the United States. If you balance out, right, then you're also talking about family planning, global health. And so I think we need to do more, not only as practitioners in this space, and we do this with our clients, of helping them think more, what is the problem that you're trying to solve? Not the discipline, not the language, what's the problem? And that's the thing that unites global work between US work. And for people who've never worked within the US and the US context, we tend to talk about domestic work or international. Whereas in the EU and in other countries, there's much more of like stuff that's in my country, and there's stuff that's in our region and stuff that's in the world, right? It's not seen as two completely different buckets that don't overlap. What happens in Russia, what happens in Gaza, what happens in the United States, what happens in Afghanistan, what happens in Kenya, these things are all interconnected. So I love this question about how do we think through the differences between working in global contexts. And honestly, to brag about ourselves for a moment, one of the reasons why I think we're successful and we get the kind of results that we do is because our focus is on the people left behind. And so when you're doing that, you have to be really, really careful to make sure, what is it about this particular community that they need? And so then it drills it down so you really get this like tailored, effective approach that's for that particular community. And we apply that regardless of whichever program we're working with. Like for Brave Future, the kinds of things that are going to be needed for maternal health are going to be very different in Afghanistan than they are for Kenya. The understanding of even what it means when an outsider starts talking about your health and reproduction, any of these things are going to be very different in those two cultural contexts as well. So I love that question.
Yeah, and you know what? I thought of this because I had such an enlightening conversation with you a few weeks ago now, and we were talking about what family planning looks like across different contexts. And I shared with you something that we have seen firsthand in Kenya, in Kakuma refugee camp, is the idea of what family planning is and the awareness. So sometimes funding is given for particular thing, contraception. They dump off a bunch of contraceptive pills and expect people just to take them because they say so, without any education or awareness. And so then there isn't the take up on them because the people have the misconception that they're like doing test cases on them. They're making us feel bad, those pills. I feel sick. I feel bloated. The awareness is that a lot of people, when they take contraceptive pills, have those same symptoms. But instead of those people coming with that knowledge and sharing that knowledge with the community, they then don't take them because they think that it's something bad. So there's all of that that comes with it, with what you provide in your organization, with not only the support to get to people, to get to funding, to spread awareness, is that complete awareness piece. So yeah, thank you so much. I love talking to you because you're such an expert on this topic, and provide so much insight into how to better provide these services to our beneficiaries. So maybe we should look at the questions that we have in the chat. Where is that? Okay. The children of East DRC also need our support, need your support. Can I direct this to Marcela, just to speak a little bit about that? That's from the community.
Yes, absolutely, and it would be amazing to be able to go to the DRC and also other parts of Kenya and expand our programs. It's our biggest desire to be able to grow and expand and ensure that every child in the world has access to high quality education. So I know, and I hope we can go. We are able to go and expand. I won't promise we'll go soon, but I promise we are working really hard, and we are working hard on getting on improving ourselves, on getting evidence from our model, on being scalable and cost effective, and create something that works for students around the world. So we hope we are able to go to the DRC and other places as well soon.
Yeah, and that's the reality of what we're doing. We do get contacted by educators, organizations, other nonprofit organizations all over the world, asking if we can come in and support. And we've talked and we've had conversations, but unfortunately at this time at Brave Future, it's a capacity building, and we cannot go any further in our delivery than our current programs, or we sacrifice the quality that we provide. So that's where the funders come in, right? So thank you for your question, whoever asked that. I'm going to ask before we close from our panelists, any last thoughts?
Carla, this is Twanna here. I'd like to add something. I'm not on mute for once. Oh, I'd like to add something to what Marcela said. And calling back to something you said, Carla, yourself earlier, where you said Brave Future, sometimes you guys feel like, oh, we're just a small group. And you look at the number of people you're reaching and things like that. I would argue you're not building the case that you're reaching every girl everywhere in the world. You're building the case that you have a replicable model that can be tailored and applied to other places as well. And so as funders are thinking about like, okay, we have more to be sympathetic to funders because they also have a greater need due to funding cuts from different governments, right? So they're having like more and more people ask them for a pot of dollars that's not growing at the same rate that the need's growing. And so that's what I would also call to funders, to have actual conversations before we even get to the funding things, right? The applications. Speak directly with more organizations and ask them, what are the kinds of things that you feel like your project would be most replicable in other situations? Who's contacting you right now saying, can you do what you do with this community instead of that one, or in this area instead of that? So I think the size of the organization isn't always where the focus needs to be. It's the effectiveness of the model. Because model, and that's what we do with Excel anyway. Models can scale, models can grow if they're effective. So I think that's important.
Thank you. See, you always bring it together so nicely. Thank you all. We look at that. We're coming up to 45 minutes. We have done so well. Big hats to all of you. So today, just as a recap, we're discussing, the idea of going from classrooms to sustainability, and that concept that girls' health and girls' education are not two separate things. We're here for anyone who has questions. I want to say thanks to our speakers for your time and for making your case so clearly. I want to thank everyone who tuned in to listen. This session was recorded and we will be sharing it. So please pass it along to anyone in your network who you think could benefit from hearing about this. If you'd like to follow up directly with Brave Future or with Funky Brown Chick or with our other panelists, please reach out to us. We'd welcome the conversation. And thank you again for joining us today for how to get from classrooms to sustainable futures. Thanks, guys. Look forward to next time.